Hey everybody, welcome back to this week's Dark Avenger Comic Book review. And we are now at Marvel, Avengers issue 4. Oh, good news for those of you Avenger fans and for those of you that said, gee, I didn't spend too much last month. Apparently, along with Superior Spider-Man, Avengers 3, which came out last week, 4, which comes out this week, 5, which is coming out next week, and 6, which is coming out in 2 weeks, are all coming out simultaneously. And when it comes to Superior Spider-Man, it was 2, next week is 3, and the following week I believe will be 4. Apparently, yeah, they're pushing a lot of the comic books to come out literally consecutive weeks in a row. I don't know why Marvel's doing that, but anyway, Hyperion is the main focal point in this book. His origin, everything like that there. I didn't know about Hyperion, so it was good. It was really a good read for me especially. So, the Avengers are following, this is basically the follow-up story to the first story arc, where they're going to all the sites. They believe there were 5, and then Hyperion finds a 6th site from the bombs that were sent from the Garden from Mars. And they're there, and it turns out AIM is there too, doing their experiments, and they got their own island now called AIM Island, so they have diplomatic immunity. So they can't be arrested or anything like that. So they have as much right to be there as the Avengers. And throughout the whole issue, you have Hyperion and a group of Avengers exploring the 6th site, which they didn't know about. And it jumps back and forth between Hyperion, which they keep saying, Hyperion, there was always, oh god, let me find one. I'll find it eventually, but they always say in the flashbacks that there were 2 Hyperions. And it's kind of funny. I was reading about Hyperion, and it reminded me so much of Superman. I'll explain why. Okay, Hyperion was the last. He was the last surviving. He escaped from a dying world as a child, and they show the world exploding, just like Krypton. He was raised by a man who taught him that truth without compromise, truth, thought without error, that's different, and all things for the betterment of the whole, truth and justice, minus the American way. Yes, Hyperion, and he gets his powers from the sun. When AIM pulled him through, he was from a different universe. When AIM pulled him through to the Marvel U, they locked him away from the sun, and it was the Avengers that actually saved him, and he gets his power from the sun. So the Avengers rescued him, he became an Avenger. And in the 6th side, it turns out that the pods, or the cocoons, had babies inside of them, or new breeds of babies. And Hyperion decides to watch after them. That's the thing I gather. And then the AIM people who are being arrested, there's a grin on one of their faces, and Captain Marvel notices, and she's like, "What are you smirking about?" "Nothing. You found all 6 sites. You've done a good job." And it turns out in Norway, spoiler alert, so you might want to fast forward a couple of seconds, there was a 7th site, and the AIM soldiers actually found what was left on the 7th site, and it turns out it looks like a person. So the Avengers missed one. Next issue is about Smasher. I enjoyed this issue. I didn't know too much about Hyperion, so it was nice to learn a little bit about him, even though he kind of... I know any character, you know, every character has their own thing. I could say he reminds me of Superman, whereas at the same time it's not Superman at all. But I really enjoyed reading his origin. I enjoyed this book. It's a follow-up, like I said, to the first story arc. You would be lost if you jumped in at this moment, but then again, with a lot of books lately, yeah, you'd be lost. But this was really good. Definitely recommend Avengers. Avengers and New Avengers have been doing an amazing job. Secret Avengers I just never really was interested in. And now Michael's going for 2 books, so I can rest my voice. Thank you, Lord.
Starting with Punisher Nightmare, issue 5 of 5, the final issue of the Punisher Nightmare series. The ending, it went out with a huge bang, and literally a huge bang, and I'll explain why I made that reference.
You know, you made mention of something, and I want to say something. You did say that after this book and Punisher Warzone ends, there's no more Punisher. That's not true.
It's Thunderbolts. The great legend R. Dowdy 95 actually commented, and I saw, so okay. Coming at you live, don't forget. Anyway, yeah, so we start off where the Punisher goes up against Johnny and or Jake, or Johnny Nightmare, I'll call him really. And the artwork in this book is really amazing. Like, I really enjoyed the artwork throughout all 5 issues, and the fight scene was so intense. It went from the sewers all the way to Central Park, where the events happened for both the Punisher and Johnny Nightmare. It was just brutal. And Johnny Nightmare is like saying, you know, you just won't die, and you know, and he's like trying to kill him. But there's a thing that Frank Castle did that actually ended in a bang, but I can't tell you here. You're just gonna have to watch the in-depth comic review. But it ended in a bang. So technically, in a comic book way, and the fight between him and Johnny Nightmare, which leads Frank Castle to meet Sarnoff, and you know what Frank Castle does, along with killing the men the boys hired to kill Jake and his family, and you got ice cream at the end. I thought that was something. And that's the end of the book. And to be honest, I give the whole Punisher Nightmare series, unlike the second issue, I give the whole series a 5 out of 5. If they come out in trade paperback, guys, you guys should absolutely pick it up. It's a really great read. If you can overlook issue 2, you'll definitely love issues 1, 3, 4, and 5. Which leads into the next Punisher comic book, which is Punisher Warzone, issue 4 of 5. One more issue left to go for the Punisher Warzone series. And Rachel makes an appearance in this comic book as a main character, while Steve Rogers, Natasha, and Tony Stark are trying to find a way to capture Frank Castle. I really don't like he has the eye patch. I mean, come on. I really thought that they would get rid of it after Thor gave him the punch in the last issue, but yeah. He's being charged with murder, was it? Like NYPD deaths, because of Chris from the Punisher series that did the whole thing. And they want to find out where he is, while Frank Castle takes in 2 ladies, I'm guessing, with a Punisher armor thingy that they're wearing. Steve Rogers meets Logan, saying, you know, which side you're on because of what you told Frank Castle from issue 1. The Punisher visits Tony Stark in his Stark Tower. And at the court where Spider-Man and Rachel meet, Iron Man goes against Spider-Man, but it's not really Iron Man. It is actually the Punisher that came to save Rachel. And in the end, the 2 people Punisher set up, Natasha says that he set us up and they've been played, and that's going to lead to a probably shocking conclusion to Punisher Warzone, but I'm really liking this, guys. According to these 2, this was Book of the Week and this came second, but I'd say still pick this up. There's only 1 more issue left, guys, and
then he's only in a team book.
Yep. Or if they come up with a Punisher comic, like maybe I could get a trade paperback of In Space, because I'm hearing so many people say it was pretty good.
You got the money, get it.
Definitely. Absolutely.
You know what I noticed? We both evenly got 3 books from Marvel this week. You just did 2. I'm going to do 1. And then you're going to do 1. And then oh no, wait. Maybe you have more. I have 1. You have 2, 3. No, we have 3 each.
We have 3
each.
For the first time.
Hawkeye issue 7. First of all, guys, this is definitely a book you should pick up. Not only because it was an awesome story, but all the proceeds. Matt Fraction actually made it. Now he announced it months ago. That Hawkeye issue 7, all the royalties from this book are going towards the Hurricane Sandy victims, FEMA, and everybody else that was affected by Hurricane Sandy. However, in the book they don't call it Hurricane Sandy, they just call it a super hurricane. Katie is in New Jersey, whereas Hawkeye is in Brooklyn, and same thing like what happened in reality. The water came up and all the first floor of the hotel, not the hotel, the apartment building he's living in got flooded. Everybody he pushed to the top of the roof of the, not the roof, more like the top of the house, not the apartment building, the house that they were in. I love the guy that calls him Hawkeye. I'm sorry, I said the apartment building. It's the house that Hawkeye's in. And he pushes them all to the second floor. And There's a heartfelt moment. Not going to spoil it. You guys can check it out on your own. Turns out in the attic, the father though has a rowboat. The Wonder Wheel is actually in the issue, in this splash page, which was awesome. And turns out Katie is with Hawkeye in the apartment building now, and this is obviously before the hurricane. And it turns out Katie's in Jersey. There was a whole fight that him and Katie had about Jersey and New York. And I love, like, she's like, get out. He's like, it's my apartment. She's like, get out. He's like, you know how to feed the dog, right? And he runs out, and that's it. Then we jump back to the hurricane where now Katie's going around, or Kate's going around, trying to save the day, and she's in Jersey, and these streets look oh so familiar, don't they, Mike?
Yeah, I remember that day.
Yeah.
Horrible.
So she's trying to prevent these people from stealing from stores, and it turns out that she wasn't successful, but it turns out that the robbers got stopped by civilians, and I love how she's like, Jersey rules! And then in the end, it's the two Hawkeyes coming together, and, where was it?
It was like...
Why are you crying? Did you just watch Rudy? She's like, what? No, Jersey? Oh, she's like, what? Oh, no, Jersey. And he's like, how is it? We survived. Queens, on fire, underwater. She's like, I'm exhausted. Can I crash here? He's like, there's no power, and you can get the couch. She's like, I'm the lady. I'll get the bed. You get the couch.
And the guest, too, she is.
Mm. And I love how in the end he's like, well, be my guest then. Wow, thank you, Hawkeye. And he's like, after you, Hawkeye. The end. This was a really good issue. I left a lot out on purpose because you guys definitely should buy this book. Not only because it was an awesome... wasn't supposed to happen. Issue 8 was supposed to be 7. Matt Fraction wrote this on the whim and got this out there ASAP to bring the proceeds for the Hurricane Sandy victims, as well as just to throw it out there. And I thought this was cool, especially because Hawkeye is in New York and Kate is from Jersey, so it really hits home, this book, because you remember what it was like, the blackout and everything.
Yeah.
And they had the blackout in there, the hurricane in there, the water coming up, the damage that was done by the winds.
Yeah, but with all due respect, we send our condolences out there for people who've lost their houses.
Yeah, everything,
and
yeah.
Everything, you know, it was just terrible.
And I think this is an awesome thing for Matt Fraction to do. Kudos to Matt Fraction. This was an awesome book, though.
I really should buy that to make a donation.
It's up to you, but this
really
was definitely a spectacular book. I loved it. I'm probably going to end up putting this on my wall somewhere.
You should.
And now we go into your last book of the week, and then I go into my last book of the week.
Okay, last book of the week is XMen Legacy, issue number 5, where it's more of an origin story of a X-Men member that I got to know a little bit about. I don't know if you've learned a little bit about her. Ruth. We get... like, it talks about, like, the spirit that he goes across. Like, I'll give you some artwork, for example, which is really good.
By the way, for those of you who are wondering where Mike's in-depth review of X-Men Legacy went...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, apparently I thought I uploaded it, I didn't, and then I lost the video, so now we gotta reshoot
I
it
really
tomorrow.
could kill you for that, but I don't mind. I missed some things out anyway, so, yeah. But anyway, going to Ruth Alden, it's, like, all, like, black and white, and...
Because they're memories.
Yeah, and her life, when I do the in-depth comic review, I'll explain more about it again, but the mother, between what happened with the mother and the brother coming back in spirit and everything else, it's just all over the place. But Ruth had a hard life, while meanwhile, so Jobo came back, and his sister, Caruso, has a talk with Legion about what he does, and let's just say in the end, the boy says something that I can't say in the end what it's about, but let's just say there's a certain spirit.
It's a shocker ending.
Yeah, it's a shocker ending. And I like how in the end here, where it has all these thought bubbles, like in one of your X-Men comics, although it's talking, it's not thinking, but... This book was, I mean, it's still a pretty good series that I'm getting, and the artwork's great as well, so if you guys haven't been reading it, you absolutely should. I mean, it's a new story, and you get to know a little bit more about Ruth Alden than the rest. I just like how they did the origin, but definitely pick it up, and that's all for me this week.
And like I said when I reviewed Avengers, a book that you'll be seeing next week, and quite possibly the week after.
I can't believe this.
And you saw it last week. No, wait, you're seeing it now, you'll see it next week, and probably the week after that. Superior Spider-Man, issue number 2. Now that we know that Peter Parker is in the background, you know, he's still there in spirit, this book wastes no time but to have him in every single scene that Doc Ock is in. He becomes friends with JJJ, which is crazy, and I love how the Spirit Peter says, I can't believe you're shaking hands with Crazy Town Banana Pants. And then it goes to Mary Jane, who calls him the exact same thing. And she's starting to say, you know, Pete's acting weird. And she's like, I think Pete and I are getting back together. And Carly's like, what? And then the rest of the book is Doc Ock's sad, and I do stress sad, attempts at going out with Mary Jane. And you have Pete in the background going, come on, why can't nobody notice this is the supervillain? And, yeah, Doc Ock is ruining Pete's reputation in Horizon because more and more people are starting to hate him in Horizon because he's a recluse and he has a robot doing all his work and he doesn't want to be bothered by anybody. Doc Ock actually creates spider bots, which actually is a very smart thing. Instead of Pete web shooting around, he should have things that are monitoring New York City. And basically the spider bots are going to be monitoring so Doc Ock could spend more time as Peter Parker, and when something really bad happens or something is caught, his spider bot will then come to him on his app and warn him about what's going on.
But he makes all these gadgets out of the web fluid that gets out the supervillains. I mean, web fluid's kind of played a big part in Spider-Man's life. I mean, having that, I guess, is okay, but I'm just saying web shooting.
Anyway, and then the rest of the book is attempts. Date number 1 attempt, results, nope. Second date, nope. Third date, infuriating, but nope. And then there's trial number 4, and that's where Doc Ock, there's something going on, and his spider sense goes off, and I love how Pete's spider sense is also going off because he's still Spider-Man technically. And instead of trying to figure out what's going on, Doc Ock just turns into Spider-Man, and they decide to web swing off. And I love how Pete is still Pete, and he's like, I love you, hear me, please don't do this. And then she goes swinging off with Doc Ock, and this was an amazing splash page. And you have Pete, the real Pete, going, Mary Jane! And he's in ghost form, but he's Spider-Man ghost form in the background. And then Doc Ock thinks he was successful, and it turns out Carly's there, so once again, snub.
Oh, I like this one too.
Yeah. And it's weird, but certain dialogue between Pete and Doc Ock, it actually sounds like Doc Ock is talking to Pete. So I wonder if Doc Ock can hear Pete, but he's just ignoring him. Where was it? No, let's go later on because that kind of can be argued. It turns out that later on he goes back to Horizon Labs. He's like, you know what? I have my memories, and he goes through the flashback, all of the times that Pete was with Mary Jane, and Pete's like, I'm gonna get you for this, Doc Ock. I swear to God, I'm gonna get you for this. And he wakes up the next day, he's like, you know what, I'm going to start looking for somebody else. And he goes flirting around with other girls. And then Pete's, in the beginning when Doc Ock was showering, he's like, you know, don't touch my body. And then he started flirting with people. He's like, you know what, never mind, touch my body. Just don't let anybody else touch it.
Oh my God.
And then his app goes off, and it turns out that Mary Jane is getting attacked by Vulture's minions. And this is the part where Pete's like, well, don't just stand there. And he's like, not a moment to lose. And they change into Spider-Man, and they web swing off. And then there's another scene where Pete says, stop, look down there. And then Doc Ock actually goes, and he looks down in the alley where there's a guy being mugged. And Pete's actually talking, saying, someone's getting mugged, we should. And it looks like on purpose, Doc Ock is cutting him off, saying, a petty crime at best. I must focus on the task at hand. So, whereas Pete would have stopped the mugger, Doc Ock just decided to go and save Mary Jane instead. And another instance that makes me think is, Doc Ock is like, they drop Mary Jane, and Doc Ock goes to save her, And Pete actually, he says one shot at this, if I could tag her with, and then Pete interrupts him again and says, not a web line. The snapback could kill her. Make a web net. And he actually makes a web net. I mean, because at first Doc Ock wanted to tag her with a web line, and then he makes the web net, and then right when finally Doc Ock is going to get Mary Jane, you know, it's going to be Peter Parker, Mary Jane, epic fail. Doc Ock actually says, you know what? Good God, I have his feelings now for her, and more than anything, I want to be with her. I need to. He knows that he needs to, and then in the end he's like, I'm Spider-Man, and I'm also Peter Parker, but this is the hardest thing to do, but I promise to protect you, but our relationship is the greatest trap of all, and the only way to free you is to move on. So basically, Mary Jane and him don't happen.
No.
And then the last page is the best page,
I knew that was gonna
where
happen.
Carly is going back to Amazing Spider-Man 700 saying, because Mary Jane's like, he's acting so different, I don't understand it, and Carly's remembering where Pete, as in Doc Ock's body, was telling her, I'm really, I'm Spider-Man, I'm really Spider-Man. She's like, you know what, I've been away for a while, but it's time I go back to work. I'm sure my case files are backed up, and I know there's at least one mystery I have to solve.
Why?
So I think Carly's the one that's going to figure out that Doc Ock is Spider-Man out of everyone
He
first.
just better not get with Carly, because no, I can't see that. No.
You stop.
It's Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson. I am sorry for being a classic person.
I feel bad more for Pete because he's stuck in spiritual form watching what Doc Ock is doing to his
that
life.
Pete couldn't really do.
I would be, at the same time I'm upset and, you know, how Doc is ruining his life, I would, as Pete, also be envious because Doc is thinking of things that Pete should have been, thinking about years ago.
But
I mean, maybe not the spider bots because that's too far-fetched for even Spider-Man, but still, Doc Ock really can execute a lot more than Spider-Man can, but we all know that Doc Ock is definitely not the...
Yeah, but even though it's a really upsetting scene, it's setting a story for something. Because you know that maybe sooner or later they may get back together, and then Mary Jane will find out that he's really Doc Ock, not Peter Parker.
I don't know.
With Carly
I mean,
telling
do I
his
like Doc Ock as Spider-Man? Absolutely not. I can't wait for the summer event where hopefully Pete will win against Doc Ock.
Oh, I hope so.
And things will go back to a certain norm. But, you know, everybody's saying, yeah, the fight will happen again, and what if Pete loses again? And that's true. If Pete loses again, he just goes right back to where he was, and then we wait for another major event. But I don't see this, like I said, it's not going to last too long. And if it's doubled and tripled, this month it's doubled up. No, it's tripled up. It's going to be tripled up.
Good in the end.
But yeah, if it's going to be tripled and doubled up like it is, by the time the major event happens in the summer, they'll be at like issue 10-ish.
Or 12, really? Because if they come out...
So,
maybe.
I don't know. We'll see how long Doc Ock is going to be Spider-Man. Is it going to be forever? I highly doubt
I
it.
hope not. I mean, even though it's kind of a good story setup, I'm like, come on, I don't like the
Yeah,
way
I highly doubt it. At some point, I have a feeling that Doc Ock and Pete are going to have that epic battle, and that's where Doc Ock's going to be shoved off, and somehow they'll retcon him back into the universe, and Dr. Octopus will be back as Doc Ock, and Spider-Man will be back as Spider-Man. And people can complain about Pete being whiny all they want, but I'll tell you the truth. I'll be the happiest man alive the day I get to see Peter Parker back as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Whiny as he is, complain as much as you want about Pete as he is. I can't wait to see him back as Spider-Man. I'm enjoying the Doc Ock run for however long it is. It's something new. I know a lot of people are like, I'm not waiting Spider-Man until Pete comes back. It's a story. And Dan Slott has been doing an amazing job, and Ryan Stegman's doing an awesome job with artwork.
Oh,
I will say that as
absolutely. I
well.
have to agree with that.
But I know it's temporary. At some point, Pete has to come back. So I can live with the temporary Doc Ock Spider-Man. And eventually, like I said, Pete will come back. Everything will go back to status quo. For more or less,
so.
Pete's life is probably going to be up in the air, and Pete's going to have a lot of work to do to work back to where he was before all of this. But, yes, I will be happy to see Pete back. as I said, complain how whiny he is or not. Maybe he won't be as whiny when he comes back now because he'll have learned so much about what Doc Ock has done.
Not in a villainous way, I hope. That's not...
No, I'm saying that Pete's going to see that Doc Ock got so much complete because he wasn't whining and he wasn't so hell-bent on, oh, I'm responsible, I have to suffer. Doc Ock took the initiative. Maybe Pete will learn from Doc Ock taking the initiative, and when he comes back, be less whiny and less,
come to think
and
of
he'll
it, maybe...
become more of a superior Spider-Man, and that's why I think the superior Spider-Man title is going to stay. I don't think it's going to go back to Amazing. Maybe it will. It
or
could.
Spectacular.
It could. But in the end, I think Doc Ock is going to make Peter Parker the superior Spider-Man, because when Peter Parker comes back, he's going to have all the stuff that he's seen Doc Ock do, and in his mind, because he's overcome Doc Ock, he is, in reality, the superior Spider-Man, and that's why I think this title is going to stick. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll go back to Amazing. I don't see anybody complaining about that. I wouldn't complain about that either. But we'll see. So that's it for this week, guys. I apologize once again that this is a day late, but this was a hectic weekend, and hopefully the in-depth reviews will be up by Wednesday morning, and then Wednesday night, you guys know we do the rundown and everything else on Dark Avenger Inc. We have our meeting tomorrow night, so we're going to be doing lots of planning for Dark Avenger Inc., so you guys can look forward to that. And with that, guys, that's it for this week, so let's get the final thoughts and end this.
Yep.
At some point, I might start working, after episode 200, I might start working on adding a little bit more to my comic reviews where I ask you guys questions and then talk about it. I've been watching a lot of other comic reviews, and we'll talk about this more when we pass 200, but I might be changing my comic reviews up at some point. We'll see. After 200. Superior Spider-Man number 2, really good. Definitely think you guys should check it out. XMen Legacy number 5.
Good issue. You guys should pick it up.
Hawkeye issue number 7 was an amazing issue. You guys definitely, I highly recommend you check it out. Punisher Warzone issue 4.
Great issue. Can't wait for the last issue.
And Nightmare number 5.
Amazing book of the week. Definitely gonna miss Punisher Nightmare. Awesome.
Avengers number 4 was really good. I enjoyed the origin of Hyperion. Green Lantern Corps annual one-shot. Awesome as well. Red Lanterns issue 16 was good. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe was awesome. I leave the origin of He-Man, however, up to you guys. Justice League Dark, issue 16.
Book of the week from DC. Awesome issue. Can't wait for the next one.
Batman Beyond Unlimited, issue 12. I leave up to you guys, but I really am loving the Superman Beyond stories. Invincible, issue 100 was awesome. I know a lot of people said it was predictable. It was this, that, and the other thing. It was all right, but to me, I enjoyed it. I'm sure a lot of you guys were expecting more, like what Robert Kirkman did in The Walking Dead 100. It wasn't as impactful as Walking Dead 100, but I look forward to future stories from Invincible, and I think this was a really good issue to check out. And finally, book from last week that I think everybody should absolutely check out is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Secret History of the Foot Clan, issue number 2. It was a really awesome issue as well. And with that, guys, we are done with this week's comic book review. Take care, everybody. Keep reading, keep collecting. Do not forget to check out comicrelated.com for all your comic-related news, reviews, and more. Lots of stuff from Dark Avenger Inc. on there. I'm contributing a couple of things to comic-related, and as the years go, as the year goes on, there'll be more stuff I'll be trying to contribute to on comicrelated.com. Don't forget to check out Dark Avenger Inc. And don't forget to also check out our expansion site, Dark Avenger Inc. Plus. Those guys are doing an awesome job, our B team. And we have a Facebook page, facebook.com/Dark Avenger Inc. Huge things are going to come on that page. Also, a huge welcome to Mark, Karim TV, to Dark Avenger Inc. And a sad, but it has to be for now, farewell to Audrey and Craig, who had to leave the page due to family things and issues with the family that they are, they're not going to be able to upload as much. So a sorrowful goodbye, but a really huge honored. We're honored to have you on Inc. And Mark, look forward to the things you have in store for Inc. Thank you guys for watching. Take care. Keep reading. Keep collecting. I'll see you guys really soon in another video. Take care, everybody.
Later, guys.
Later, guys.